rising from the depths of the ocean, nearly 400 feet tall, created from nuclear radiation. The king of the monsters. It's Godzilla, making his debut appearance in 1954's Godzilla, also known as Godzilla Kingdom of Monsters. This wasn't just any monster movie. The situation was treated like a national disaster, and it's done with great effect. Keep in mind that this was a country that experienced the devastating nature of nuclear power firsthand. Godzilla's trademarks include breathing his atomic breath and causing unparalleled destruction. He is indestructible and can't be damaged by any military vehicles. The only thing that can stop him is another giant monster. These monsters include King Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, King Kong, Mechagodzilla, Anguirus, and more. Biollante, Hedorah, aka the Smog Monster, Gigan. But Godzilla isn't all tough and bad. He actually has been a good guy many times. He's been a hero, an environmentalist, and a father. Of course, the Godzilla movies has its share of dramatic elements, but it's also had its share of, well, silliness. Like this. Yeah. But now we have another Godzilla movie called Godzilla Kingdom of Monsters, not to be confused with the original Godzilla. This is the sequel to the 2014 Godzilla film that was directed by Gareth Edwards. Let's take a look. Here we go, this long-awaited sequel to the 2014 Godzilla. 5 years after the events of 2014's Godzilla, a series of monsters, also known as Titans, have been appearing in several parts of the world. A group of scientists form a company known as Monarch. They are trying to convince the government to help research these animals instead of killing them. However, while Monarch is researching Mothra, who is in a temple in China, an evil British leader, who you will never remember the name, kidnaps one of the scientists named Emma and her daughter Madison, all because of a device that Emma invented to communicate with the Titans through sounds. And that's it as far as the story is concerned. Yeah, there's a situation where Monarch is using Godzilla as an experiment, but they're trying to combat the Titans that have appeared, and yes, Godzilla is on the list of Titans. And even King Kong makes a very brief appearance, blink if you miss it. But yeah, but Monarch uses Godzilla as an experiment through a submarine technology or something like that. Yeah, but the human story, okay, see, here's the thing. First off, if you know anything about Godzilla, there are two sides to him, hero or villain. But he has also been an anti-hero at times too. Here, he's more of an anti-hero. That's fine with me. I've heard criticisms that the human story in this film is very uninteresting and very thin. See, in most of the Godzilla movies, the humans were never the real focus, unless you count the original Godzilla, which treated the situation that Tokyo is under, a giant reptilian monster coming up from the ocean caused by nuclear radiation. They treat it like it's a national disaster. That's why it has such a profoundly strong impact. But also Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, and Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. The rest of them, they just add humans to make the movies, feel like movies. If a Godzilla movie was nothing more than just monsters fighting for 2.5 hours, people would get bored of them pretty quickly. Ahem. As for the story in this new movie is concerned, I gotta be honest, it's a little more interesting this time around. The only thing I remember about the 2014 movie was that the human story wasn't really that interesting. In fact, at the time, I didn't think it was a big deal. But nowadays, I'm more focused on the human stories anyway, so yeah. There was one part in this movie, I mean, the human story was a bit more interesting this time around. I mean, at least, there's at least something going on. But there was one part that was so bad, it almost ruined the movie. So, Emma makes a speech to Monarch and the other scientists after releasing one of the Titans, that the reason why she is releasing the Titans is because we created war, global warming, etc. basically the bad stuff in the world, and that the only way to save ourselves is by releasing the Titans and rehabilitating the planet. But here's the thing. Now, Monarch thinks that it's basically ending the world, and Emma knows it too, but she and the British guy agree that by releasing the Titans can restore the planet to what it was before when they ruled the world. In other words, during the dinosaur era. So, in other words, what she is doing is creating an end-of-the-world scenario for the sake of the Titans. I don't believe this for a minute. First off, at first I thought she was under the British guy's control, like she doesn't really believe half of the things she's saying. Remember, she's taken hostage along with her daughter, so it would make sense that she would be under his control. You know, the typical villain bad guy kidnapping stuff. But we find out that she somehow actually believes what she's saying. There is a situation where the Titans are released all at once, but that was not their doing this time. That was King Ghidorah, who is actually the alpha of the Titans. In other words, the head authority of all the Titans. I mean, she does say that it isn't right doing this, and that she wants to reverse this. Well, not just her, but also her daughter. But that piece of the story is so backwards, you'll be sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, this is okay, I guess. Wait, what has happened? Overall, human story a bit more interesting, but that's because something is actually happening with the characters. Let's talk about Godzilla himself. He appears 25 to 30 minutes into the film, with the exception of a flashback shot at the start of the film. What I like is the build-up. The build-up was pretty good. The kaiju fighting was great. Very faithful to the franchise. We not only hear Mothra's theme, but also the original Godzilla theme. You know, it was excellent. That was a nice touch. The fighting takes place during a storm that King Ghidorah caused, but at the very least we can see everything. As for the amount of Titans, there's 17. The only ones that are mentioned are Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, which they initially think of him as Monster Zero, a reference to Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, also known as Invasion of the Astro Monster, Rodan, and King Kong, but he's only on screen for like a second on a TV monitor. At least we know what the next movie's gonna be. But it's pretty obvious that the British guy wants at least one of the Titans, or at the very least wants to use them for some kind of evil purpose. They say that King Ghidorah, quote, may have been a rival to Godzilla. Are you kidding me? One of Godzilla's arch rivals is King Ghidorah. How do you not know this? And don't even try to come up with a justification for the Titans replenishing the Earth, because I honestly have a hard time believing that. Speaking of references to the other movies, the army at one point creates an oxygen destroyer, a reference to the very first Godzilla film. So, at the very least, there is something here that references the other movies, or at the very least, ties them together somehow. But with Godzilla having a very strange timeline anyway, it's really hard to tell where the first movie begins and what's the last film in the series. In fact, the only movie I can think of that's a direct sequel to the original Godzilla was Return of Godzilla from 1984, also known as Godzilla 1985. So, that's the only direct sequel that I can think of. Unless you count Godzilla Tokyo SOS, which was a direct sequel to Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla. I'm such a nerd! The climax at the end is easily the best part of the movie. We can see the fighting happening, for the most part, and Godzilla's fighting King Ghidorah, while Mothra is fighting Rodan. It's an all-out brawl, and it actually is nicely done. So, I guess you can stop complaining about the 1998 Godzilla movie that tried to be its own thing, that didn't look like him. Honestly, I've never seen that all the way through, so I don't know if it's bad or not. But getting back on track here, Godzilla King of the Monsters, I kinda liked it. I know it sounds kinda weird, but I kinda liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was nicely done. I mean, they really did try. I don't know what people were expecting. Were people expecting something, like, really cool? Were they expecting nothing but monsters fighting for 2 hours? I don't really know. But if there's one thing I do know, this is worth seeing on the big screen. And I guess that makes logical sense. even if the human characters aren't the best, something at the very least is keeping your interest, which is more than I can say for some of the other Godzilla movies I've seen. I'm gonna give this a 7.8 out of 10. And by the way, can we address the whole review score thing? Okay, there are 3 types of review scores. There's school grade, which is basically if you get like a 6 and below, it's like an F or something. And a 7 is like a D, a C is like an 8, a B is a 9, and an A is like a 10. If you want to go by that, then I'm going to give this a B minus or something. If you want me to go by movie in terms of stars, I give it a good 3.5 out of 5. Yes, a 3.5 out of 5, meaning I think it's good. It's a good movie. Not a masterpiece, but I think it's good. It's watchable. Or if you want me to go by a score, I have to give it a 7.9 out of 10. So there. Those are movie scores. In other words, I give this movie an above average rating. So there. Just because somebody gives a rating that's like 6 or a 5, it doesn't automatically mean that it's a bad movie. It just means that it could have been a lot stronger, or at the very least it could have been better.